Chapter 949 of One Piece sparked a lot of conversation. For the most part, everyone was talking about Luffy's role in the capture of Udon and his display in front of the prisoners. The other scene that gained a lot of attention was with Kid. The relationship between Luffy and Kid has obviously been given a lot of attention to Wano, but this raises the question of what their relationship even means for the main story. Why put Luffy and Kid together in the same prison? Why not have Kid as another headliner that Luffy or Law would have to fight? In short, the rivalry between Luffy and Kid is unique in that it shows why these two have been able to rise up to where they are as the top contenders for Pirate King among the worst generation. Of course, Luffy and Law also share an important relationship, but Law is more of an ally to Luffy than a rival at this point in the story. While Law could easily leave Luffy after Wano and follow his own path, there is no way of saying what will happen for sure. Unlike Law, Kid is a very clear rival for Luffy. To be clear, Blackbeard is the clear leader among the worst generation. Since he is an established Yonko with 2 Devil Fruit powers, it would be bold to claim that any other members of the worst generation could win against Blackbeard as they currently stand. So for the sake of this video, the worst generation will only concern the 11 rookies that were mentioned at Sabaody. The Sabaody arc is the first time we are introduced to the worst generation. Not only does Sabaody offer a brief glance at each rookie, but it also serves as an early look into the roles played by Luffy, Law, and Kid. It is important to note that Luffy is not necessarily any stronger than the others at this point in the story. In fact, Kid's bounty at this point was higher than Luffy's, which could very well suggest that Kid was stronger back then. Still, the events in Sabaody contrast the Straw Hats with the others to make them stand out as clear leaders. This was more obvious in the scene when Zoro was stopped from attacking the Celestial Dragon by Bonnie while the other rookies stood by and watched. The less obvious contrast occurred with Luffy when he stormed the slave auction to save Cammy while Kid and Law happened to be watching. These two scenes both demonstrate the Straw Hats as people who do whatever they want without regarding the consequences. Contrast the Straw Hats to the other crews who all wanted nothing to do with the world government, much less the Celestial Dragons. And this brings us to the scene with Luffy, Law, and Kid. This scene was important because it hinted at Kid's respect for Luffy. After telling Luffy that it was a pleasure to meet him, Kid warns him that he will not show Luffy any mercy the next time they meet. Naturally, Luffy responds by claiming that he'll be the one to find One Piece. Oblivious to the Marine before him, Kid takes a moment to appreciate Luffy's ambition, which he then expresses by telling Luffy he wants to meet him in the New World. So, before the time skip, we already have a base for the relationship between Luffy and Kid. Luffy and Kid are both clear leaders among the worst generation. While Kid has a higher bounty at this point, Luffy is the one who ends up earning the respect. Why is that? Again, it's the theme of pursuing ambitions despite the consequences that makes Luffy stand out. Luffy doesn't care how many threats Kid throws his way because he won't let him get in his way of finding One Piece. This impresses Kid because most other people that he has mentioned One Piece to have simply laughed. Having finally met another pirate who can proudly declare they are searching for One Piece, Kid finds himself full of excitement for the road ahead. Thus, the rivalry between Luffy and Kid is born. But what makes Luffy and Kid any different? Fast forward to Wano when the next time Luffy and Kid are together is in Udon Prison. In chapter 926, their strong rivalry is demonstrated by the extent to which they compete to outdo the other in their work. While this helps present the depth of their rivalry, the most important scene occurs when Luffy and Kid beat the Deputy Warden Dobon. When they are confronted by Dobon, Luffy immediately notices that Hyogoro is trapped beneath him while Kid doesn't seem to notice. After the two of them beat Dobon, Luffy makes sure to carry Hyogoro away from the scene. At first, this may not seem like an important detail, but this is actually a major difference between Luffy and Kid. While Luffy and Kid are both committed to living the free life of a pirate, Luffy happens to make friends along his journey, while Kid is only willing to help those who are part of his crew. It should be noted that Luffy doesn't really go out of his way to make friends. As Luffy has said himself, he wants to be a pirate and not a hero. While a hero would help each of their neighbors due to their sworn duty, a pirate like Luffy just wants to help his friends. If Luffy happens to like you, then he'll help you out. Coincidentally, Luffy happens to have a lot of friends despite never explicitly seeking friendship with the people around him. This was most notably mentioned by Mihawk at Marineford when he said Luffy has the most terrifying power, the power to turn the people around him into allies. Contrast Luffy to Kid, who only ever sought to ally with Hawkins and Apoo because he thought it was the only way to take out a Yonko and get one step closer to One Piece. This difference between Kid and Luffy is seen most recently in chapter 950 when Kid refuses to ally with Luffy. Now, does this mean that Kid is going to just leave Wano without picking a fight with Kaido? Probably not, considering the extent to which Kaido has shamed Kid. So why refuse to ally with Luffy when they have the same goal? Simply put, Luffy and Kid embody two different lifestyles. Kid is a figure who chases his ambitions despite the obstacles, brutalizing anyone who would oppose or even mock him. This makes Kid similar to what many perceive as the typical pirate. Luffy, on the other hand, lives according to his dreams, but also wants to help people along the way. Again, this is not an obligation to some sort of virtue Luffy is sworn to, but simply because Luffy wants to help people. This one difference, though seemingly insignificant, is a major factor in both their characters' personalities. Both are strong pirates who have undoubtedly made an impact on the events of the world, and both of them display a strong desire to pursue their dreams. But what separates Luffy from Kid is his unyielding and genuine desire to help those around him. From this desire stems Luffy's ability to make allies as easily as he does. His fight against Crocodile, invasion of Enies Lobby, and rebellion in Wano are all a direct consequence of Luffy's desire to help others no matter the cost. And this is why Kid can't help but admire Luffy. Similar to the scene in Sabaody, Kid takes the opportunity to quietly watch Luffy as he takes on the role of leader of the rebellion. Beautifully illustrated by Oda in a way that merely hints at what he might be thinking, Kid can only watch as Luffy turns the prisoners of Udon into allies, something that Kid simply cannot do. And this is where we are left off. Luffy has managed to garner support in his rebellion against Kaido and help his friends. Kid naturally refuses to ally with Luffy because he would rather live on his own than go out of his way to help someone else. Now, it is uncertain whether or not future events will have any effect on the relationship between Kid and Luffy, but what can be said is that the nature of their rivalry will stay the same. The rivalry between Kid and Luffy is one that is born out of Kid's pure self-interest and Luffy's personal desire to help those in need. This is not just a rivalry between two strong pirates, but also between two conflicting ideas of what it means to live like the Pirate King. Thank you for watching. If there is anything you think I forgot to mention, please share your thoughts in the comments, as I am really curious to hear what you guys have to say. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, check out my videos, and follow me on Twitter, and I hope to hear from you soon.